Illinois Stories is brought to you by the Corporation for Public Broadcasting and by the support of viewers like you. Thank you.
Hello, welcome to Illinois Stories. I'm Mark McDonald in Jacksonville, where the Jacksonville Symphony Orchestra is celebrating its 50th anniversary. They're just now tuning up for hundreds of kids from all over Morgan County who have come to learn about classical music and enjoy it. Selections by Dvorak and Copland and Rodgers and Hammerstein. Well, it's just beginning. We'll look back at the 50 years of this symphony orchestra and ahead a little bit. Well, Garrett, 50 years, that's a real milestone. And you, particularly, more than 30 years, have been music director and conductor. And that's a long tenure. In fact, I heard the story that when you came to town, they insisted that part of the reason they brought you here was so you would be conductor of this orchestra. Anyway, congratulations.
Yes. Well, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
What's the 50th season, your 30-something season? What's it feel like?
Feels great. It doesn't feel like I've been here 30-some years.
Yeah, you still feel young, huh?
Yeah, still feel young.
Like you told me you were 12 when you got the job,
Yeah, I came here
right?
when I was 12, right, yeah. Yeah. I guess it's a job that keeps you young, you know, and keeps you vigorous as you're enjoying the music. And
you are a music professor at Illinois College,
yes.
right? Mm-hmm. So you're all about music.
Right.
This is kind of a neat way for you to put music into practice, isn't it?
Oh, it is, yeah. I mean, at the college I teach music theory and music appreciation and conducting, but this is a chance to make music.
Yeah. What's it like when you have hundreds of kids in the audience?
It's great. I mean, I really enjoy it. I say they're my toughest audience, but I try to have a program that they will enjoy and try to bring some educational elements into it, like introducing the various instruments and the sounds of the combinations of the instruments, and introduce them to some good classical repertoire, and then include some music that they would be familiar with,
like the Polar Express, right? Okay, and you could see they all knew where that was going, boy. They were in their mind's eye. They could see that.
Oh yeah, yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Now I got a question for you because I brought the program along, and you chose Dvorak, Tchaikovsky, Copland, Rodgers and Hammerstein, and as we mentioned, the Polar Express. How did you make those choices?
Well, I came up with a theme, being, as the title indicates, around the world with a symphony. So trying to use composers from different countries, also composers who wrote music about different countries. So we have Tchaikovsky, who not only wrote the Russian music, the Russian dance and the Waltz of the Flowers, but he wrote the Arabian dance and the Chinese dance to get our fingers out there a little more into the world. The Copland, obviously, needed an American. And what better American composer?
Yeah,
and the Hoedown.
It was the Hoedown, yeah.
I don't know if they probably didn't recognize it was the beef commercial years ago.
I'll bet they did. I'll bet they did.
Well, I don't know. I think it was before their time. It's what's for dinner.
Yeah, right.
And The Sound of Music seemed like a good choice as
Yeah.
well, you know, with the Austrian story by an American composer.
Yeah.
And of course,
they were vaguely familiar with that music. They'd heard it somewhere. They didn't know where, but they'd heard it somewhere.
right,
Yeah.
right. Probably sometime when The Sound of Music was on television on Thanksgiving Day or something.
You know, watching you conduct, there are points there where you almost seem completely elated with what's going on and what's just transpired. What's it like conducting a big orchestra?
Oh, it's great. Yeah, it's really great. Of course, most of our work is in rehearsals. And rehearsals can be work. But, you know, we're going through the details, getting things right, and then when the performance comes, that's where we just kind of let it go and have this feeling, like you said, of elation, of excitement.
But you're the man. All eyes are on you, and everybody's waiting for you to lead, and everybody's waiting to see where they're supposed to go, when they're supposed to do it, and there's a lot of responsibility. So, do you ever feel pressure?
Oh, sure. All the time. But it's good pressure. You know, it's this opportunity, you know, to make music with a really wonderful bunch of musicians. It's a terrific experience.
I got a hold of the Jacksonville Symphony Orchestra lineup from 40 years ago.
I see.
And about 5 of these musicians are still playing with the orchestra. So you have a tremendous amount of staying power. Your musicians stay with it year after year, for the most part.
For the most part,
and that's
yes.
a good thing, isn't it?
Oh, yes. Very good. Because you can build on that. And you don't have to start over from ground zero or the first step every time. You know, just start in the fall and build on what we did the previous year.
Well, we're going to hear more of the music, see more of the kids, and talk to some of your musicians as we go through the program. Thanks for the visit.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Susan, did I hear that today?
Yes.
Okay, that was part of the Dvorak piece? Okay. What'd you think of the program?
Well, I thought it was a fun program to play for them. It was lively and kept their attention. Sitting on the edge of the stage, I hear it all if they aren't attentive, and they were very good today, so they were with us.
Yeah, you're always in that spot, aren't you? Right,
always.
To the immediate right of the conductor, because you're the principal cello, and that's where the principal cello sits, and the other cellist would sit inward from where you are.
And behind,
What do you enjoy playing for children?
When they pay attention. Yeah, it's always good. You know, if you don't catch people when they're young, they never really learn to love music. And so it's important that there are concerts like this, that music is presented to them in the schools, so they hear it, they participate in it. So.
Did you start young?
Yes, my father used to make me take on an old curved soprano saxophone every Saturday morning. I had it when I was 5. I had to go down and play on that. I gave that up. Yes.
How did you choose? You
I didn't
switched
choose
it for a cello. but you traded it in for a cello. How did that happen?
I traded in first for a violin and then a
for
cello.
Violin.
Yeah.
Okay. So you learned your first string instrument was a violin. Did you ever go to viola and then work your way up?
No, that was when I got my degrees. I did some viola then. So.
But you settled on cello. Why?
Yeah. Got a ride home from school.
That's right. You can't expect a person to carry that home from school, right?
Most of the time I had to anyway, but I just like the lower tones better.
That's funny. And you've been the principal cello for 25 years now in the Jacksonville Symphony Orchestra. You also play music around Springfield and other places, don't you? So before that, before you were principal cello, you were also in the orchestra doing other things. What also playing cello?
Right, always cello.
But on call. You were what you call a ringer, huh?
Right.
Do they call them ringers because they were waiting for the phone to ring? Is that why?
I don't know. I never thought about it.
Yeah, okay.
Maybe that's it.
But 25 years, you've seen a lot of changes in this orchestra?
Oh yeah, lots of different people coming and going over the years. You know, there aren't too many, as you said. There were a few from the very beginning, and I'm getting to be one of the oldies now, and so I don't know how much longer, but
yeah. Well, it's terrific to have you here.
Thank you.
And I always look forward to hearing you play.
Thank you.
Okay. Beautiful. Aaron, we heard some Tchaikovsky today. The kids did, part of Nutcracker. This is related to that same composer. What is it?
It's the concerto that Tchaikovsky wrote.
And that's the way it starts?
That's the way it starts. That's the opening.
It's terrific.
Yeah.
Hey, you're the concert master. You're kind of young to be a concert master.
Am I?
Yeah.
I'm 30.
But you've been concert master for 4 years, right?
Yes.
What, for those of us who don't know orchestra stuff, what does a concert master do?
Well, the concertmaster is sort of in charge of leading the string sections, and I get to give the violins bowings and decide on things like that. And of course, I work very closely with Susan, principal cellist, and she'll decide on bowings for the lower strings.
I also noticed that when the conductor's finished, you're the first hand he shakes. That's a matter of respect, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah.
And it's tradition.
So. It's the tradition,
Yeah.
yes.
Now, you're still a young guy. You said you're 30. You play with 2 other orchestras. You used to play with 11. And you founded a school. Tell me about that.
Well, it's within a school. It's an academy for violinists within a school. And it's sort of a modified Suzuki program. So I start them at 4 or 5 years old and take them on up.
So you enjoy playing for kids. You think it's important.
Oh, yes, it's one of the things that I've always enjoyed doing.
Like today.
Yes, yes.
Do you play off the kids? Do you catch their eye and sort of play off them sometimes?
I try to, yes.
Do they relate to you?
Well, sometimes, yeah, they do. When we're so far from the audience and, in an orchestra setting, it's a little more difficult to do that. But when I have chance to play right up close, then I always try to engage them even a little bit more.
Yeah. Now we're talking about the 50th anniversary of the Jacksonville Symphony this year. You've been there 4 years. Have you seen any development, any changes, or has it been pretty much the same for 4 years?
Well, you know, I mean, it just seems like everybody really loves what they do here, and that's why I stay, because I really enjoy playing here. It's a lot of fun, the energy that people bring to it. Everybody loves what they do, and that's really important. And so it's a joy to work with the people here in Jacksonville, because they make great music, because they love to do it.
And you lead a really good section.
Yes.
Yeah, that
yes.
violin section is really good.
Yes, I agree.
Yeah. Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Richard, you guys on the bass had a lot to do today.
Yes,
I noticed
we did.
you were very busy.
Yes.
It's a lot of work,
Yes.
isn't it?
We have to move twice as fast and twice as long as most
Twice
other
as
instruments.
far?
Yes.
Look how far you have to go.
And we have no frets, so it's all up here. And you don't have a chance to mess up. If you mess up, you're out of luck. So you really have, every time you put your finger down, you have to constantly adjust and adapt. And then also you have to worry about your bow speed. So it's very complicated.
This, I jokingly said, this instrument looks like it's a couple hundred years old, and you said it is.
Yes, yes.
Tell me about this instrument.
Well, it's a German flatback, and this came from my teacher, Henry Lowe, in the symphony. He had about 8 of these basses, and while I was in high school studying from Henry Lowe, he said, you know, you're going to need a professional instrument. I go, why? Because you're going to be playing professional, and you'll need an instrument. I said, well, I can't afford that. So he worked out a deal with my mom and dad to make, you know, house payments like for many years. And,
wow.
And so I'm very fortunate.
Well, he was a fortune teller because you were a musician your whole life, weren't you?
Yes.
Still are.
Yes.
Yeah. And so Henry Lowe, fill us in on who Henry Lowe was.
Henry Lowe was the principal of the St. Louis Symphony and also manager of the St. Louis Symphony for many years. He's been dead now for a while. But he was very, in fact, our first chair in the symphony in St. Louis is named after, called the Henry Lowe Chair.
Is that right?
And he's well known all over the world. A lot of his students are in principal places in other parts of the orchestra.
Have you played with the St. Louis Symphony Orchestra?
As a student, I did. But, you know, having that conflict with my teacher, being the manager, always wouldn't work, but they brought us in. So I get leftover stuff for the symphony.
So were you, I mean, so you were a youngster,
Yes, right? Yes, 16.
So, and they allowed you to play with the symphony?
Yes.
Had that ever happened before?
Not that I know of, but not everybody had the manager as their teacher.
The youngest player with the Illinois, or with the
St. Louis
Symphony
Philharmonic.
Orchestra.
There's a difference. The Philharmonic is not the same.
I've heard the Philharmonic. They're very good too.
Thank you.
Yeah, they're very good. And now you get to travel around because you're semi-retired and you get to travel around doing nothing but music.
Yes.
How do you? What's it like playing for about? I would say there are about 400 kids there today. What's that like?
It's always exciting. Because, you know, you look in there and you see how the kids come alive when you're playing something. And you know they're staring at you because you're one of the biggest instruments. And they go, oh, wow, wow, and it's kind of neat. So I like to give them something to get excited about. So sometimes I'll put a little bit more life into what I'm doing.
Yeah. And, you know, today, for instance, you showcased, you know, the strings and the horns and everything. Well, you all really got to show them what a bass sounds like. Yes. And because that's not always the first thing you hear. You know, you have to train your ear to hear that. And they got a chance to really hear the solo, what this sounds like all by itself. And it's an eye-opener for them.
Yes.
Krista, that sounds faintly familiar to something we heard today when the kids were listening.
It is, thank you.
Sounds like what I think Garrett called it, the snake trainer.
It's the Arabian dance.
Arabian dance,
and sometimes they say that the oboe sounds like the snake charmer.
The snake charmer, right.
Or a duck.
It yes, a duck on a good day.
Duck and Peter and the Wolf. That is a good day.
You have played this for a long time. You were a kid when you took up oboe.
I played piano very early, but oboe was my first instrument, and I started in the 7th grade.
Yeah. Why did you choose oboe?
The school had one that I could use.
But it didn't take long. I mean, you found a hit. That's an intriguing sound.
It has been a wonderful instrument for me. I still enjoy it very much. It's a fun sound. Not everybody plays the oboe, so I feel a little special, and it's been great for me.
Yeah. Wow, that takes a lot of wind, doesn't it?
It does.
I'll bet you guys, the guys that play the trombone and those other big wind instruments, you got a lot of lung capacity.
Yes, and we're a little dizzy afterwards. So.
I wanted to talk to you, Dave, because 50 years ago, roughly 50 years ago, was the first performance of the Jacksonville Symphony Orchestra, and you were there.
Yes, I was.
You were a kid. You had to be a kid.
Very much.
Yeah. How old were you?
18 or so.
18 or so?
I don't know. Yeah, Henry Bushy was conductor at McMurray College and played in the first one.
I'll be darned.
Yeah.
And of course, then you raised a family, so you were in and out and in and out, but you're back now, and you've been back for several years, haven't you?
Back for 15 or so. I've lost track. It's been a lot of years.
Yeah. And how has music been part of your life?
It's just always been there, and just a lot of joy and a lot of satisfaction in being able to play with a group like this.
Did you study music when you were in college?
Not formally. I wasn't a music major. I'm a social worker by profession, but I've been playing music all the time since 4th grade. Yeah.
You never lost sight of it. It was always pulling you back in.
That's right.
Always the trombone?
Always the trombone.
And when you look out, I know that I have a feeling that kids are somewhat intrigued by this instrument because it's one of the few things that's moving. It's got moving parts.
That's right.
Are they paying attention to you?
I think so, yeah. Now, we don't get to do too much slipping and sliding in the orchestra, but it's a fun instrument to play.
Would you like to play big band sometime where you could do a lot of slipping and
I
sliding?
belong to a big band over in Springfield.
Do you?
Play with them.
Yeah. Yeah. So just love this instrument.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a lot of fun.
Well, thanks for visiting with us.
Yeah, thank you, Mark.
Oh, okay, it doesn't go anywhere after that?
That for 45 measures.
That's what a bassoon sounds like. Is that that's the lower register, I guess, for the bassoon?
The B flat is the lowest note it plays on the instrument.
Yeah. And was that sort of what he wanted the kids to hear today? Something from that, or?
I think that's just was in the piece. And
Yeah.
I think he likes it torturous. There's nowhere to breathe.
You know, the bassoon is a complicated, peculiar instrument. And you've been playing it with this orchestra for 30 years, right?
Yeah.
30 years. Boy, there's not a lot of turnover. You must all have fun.
We do. We try.
And these, like you say, you play in a group with some of the other people here, like outside of the orchestra.
I play in the Sangamon Woodwind consorts, flute, oboe, and bassoon. We do a lot of weddings and parties and all that stuff like that. And I play in a couple of the orchestras throughout Central Illinois and got to travel a lot. So.
Yeah. And the bassoon's been good to you because it's taken you to Europe a few times.
Yes, it has.
Yeah. Tell me how that happened.
I got a phone call one day, and a lady said, "You've been recommended. I need a contrabassoon for a festival." I said, "Where's that at?" And she said, "Eisenstadt, Austria." And I went, "Huh?" But I went.
And you're glad you went, too.
My high school German finally paid off.
Yeah, and that was the first of several trips to Europe.
Yes, it was.
So that bassoon, even though for some of your classmates it probably seemed peculiar, it came out good, didn't it?
They did. Yeah. I give credit to my high school band director who said, "Hey, do you want to play the bassoon?" I said, "What's that?" You know. So it's been very good to me.
We're glad you play it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Tim Kramer, we've been looking back somewhat at the 50 years of the Jacksonville Symphony Orchestra. But interestingly, I said, well, we're going to look ahead too, and that's where you come in, because you've been commissioned to create a piece in honor of the 50th anniversary. And it's interesting, I think the viewers might want to know a little bit about the creative process beside, you're creating a symphonic piece, and that's a lot to do, isn't it?
It is. And of course, I want to write for the whole ensemble, and I'm also including the organ that's in Ramelkamp Chapel, where the work will be premiered. So we're trying to get as many players on stage, and I'm trying to pack as much history of the symphony and of Jacksonville into the piece as I can, so that it has some resonance with the community.
Yeah, and the symphony goes back to both colleges.
It does.
Interestingly, what you wanted to do, and this is a great idea, is take the alma maters from the colleges and somehow combine those so that they make sense go into the future.
Right. So I have two alma maters. Actually, there are three, because McMurray has two different college songs that talking to McMurray graduates, they couldn't agree on which one that I should use. And interestingly enough, I found that when I put them together, they sound okay.
Okay.
So it was kind of nice. So I could play a little bit of each one here.
Okay.
So the three alma maters, and the reason I do this is because I think it's a nice idea that when you're having a work for the community, that it's going to have some kind of immediate emotional resonance for the people in the audience. So if someone's from IC and they hear
click.
Click,
yeah.
They'll stand up and start to sing, right? Or if someone from McMurray hears they'll know what that means. Or they might hear this melody. So we have those three tunes. Well, it's interesting enough that, of course, they have a similar kind of harmonic content about them. And I was able to work with them in different keys, and I finally realized that I could actually put them together. So that's one of the key ingredients in this piece, is the idea that the whole community comes together in one work. And we can look at the differences between these melodies, and they'll be treated separately throughout the piece in two separate sections. But as they come together, in the center of the piece, in the big part of the piece, we're going to hear boldly presented in the brass. We'll hear the melody, the McMurray theme, and the IC theme. And they just fit pretty well together as and I get to treat them in different meters and move them a little bit so they line up. But it's a fun game.
You're going to add some big symphony stuff, right?
Right. So, of course, that's not all you're hearing. This is not just an arrangement of alma mater melodies. You're also going to hear, underneath that, the orchestra doing some rather loud things like... while those tunes are going on. And you'll also hear some other melodies from Illinois College history and from Jacksonville history. I looked at General Garrison melodies. I looked at all kinds of things that I could try and pull up to see if I could put other personalities into the piece. And I mentioned to you earlier the Jonathan Spillman, who was one of the earlier graduates of Illinois College, who was also a composer. Flow Gently, Sweet Often is one of his famous melodies. That's going to appear. So there are going to be different tunes that you hear. So it's primarily a diatonic piece. In fact, the work ends in C. But because I'm stacking these things on top of each other, it's going to be a very bright sound. In one instance, in fact, I introduced this idea when these things come together that since we're dealing with these primarily kind of almost anthems or hymns, they have a lot of chords that fall like an amen. And so there's a harmonic element that I introduced pretty early on that's all falling fourths, and it sounds like this. And you can hear how that gets away from just 5 notes or a diatonic grouping and starts to add more color to the sound.
Well, listen, Tim, thank you so much. I'm going to be at that concert if I can get a ticket. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay. Well, that concert, which is going to feature the original piece by Tim Kramer in commemoration of the 50th anniversary of the Jacksonville Symphony Orchestra, will take place on May 4th. With another Illinois story in Jacksonville, I'm Mark McDonald. Thanks for watching.
Illinois Stories is brought to you by the Corporation for Public Broadcasting and by the support of viewers like you. Thank you. For a DVD copy of the program you've just seen, send $19.95 to Network Knowledge, P.O. Box 6248, Springfield, Illinois 62708. Be sure to include the program name, subject, and when the program aired. You can also order with your credit card by calling 800-232-3605.